evening, everyone. I'd like to call the November 15th meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be a little bit rusty on our opening remarks. I'm so used to reading all the old remarks. I'm going to try to remember to get through anything, and I'm sure Mr. Nunes will help me out if I struggle. I want, because the public is granted physical access to this meeting, public comment will be in person. The public will also be able to access the meeting via live stream at youtube.com/DHSTV Media. The meeting will be rebroadcast on DCTV Channels 9 on the following days, Wednesday and Thursday at 5 p.m., Friday at 6 a.m., Saturday at 8 a.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. It will be rebroadcast on DCTV Channel 18 on Monday and Saturday at 12 p.m. and Thursday at 3 p.m. Since we have audience members, I'd like to remind everyone to please silence their cell phones at this point in time. Ms. Genther, can we have a roll call, please?
Shannon Jenkins.
Here.
Mary Waite.
Here.
Kathleen Emerald. John Nunes.
Yep.
Chris Oliver.
Here.
All right, so the first item on our agenda, we're going to start tonight with recognition of the DHS marching bands, who are the U.S. Bands Group 5 Open National Champions. I'd like to actually turn it over to Mr. Nunes to talk about the band and their accomplishments a bit as we recognize them.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight we have Mr. Flint, who is the Director of Music for the Dartmouth Public School System, and two of the drum majors here. Last Saturday night, November 6th, the band went down to the Meadowlands in New Jersey, Giant Stadium, MetLife Stadium, whatever you wish to call it. And out of three bands in our Division 5, came home with a first place with a score of 98.0 type of deal. They were some 3.4 points ahead of South Brunswick High, and a couple more of that from J.P. Stevens, both New Jersey bands. That kind of capped a wonderful year for the band. The Wednesday before down in New Britain, they came away with U.S. Band Division 5 Mass and New England Open, and also on the following Saturday, which I had talked about also at the last meeting on, and Josh had talked about, and Reading came home with the Division 5 NESBA championship with a 99.6. So it's been a fantastic year for the band. They've done wonderful, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Flint and the drum majors.
Yeah, it was definitely an exciting season for us. The hardest thing about this was unpredictability of the season, and I just got to commend the students and staff. We didn't really know how it would turn out, and all the people that stuck it out with the program. I mean, really, the dedication's there, and the proof is in the end result. But I think the biggest thing take away from the weekend was just the level of entertainment. We're standing there at the end, and we knew we had a great performance, but to watch the audience stand up and all the students from all the other bands, because we were the second last band on for the night, and it was a standing ovation with all the other students there too. So we put on not just a high scoring show, but an entertaining production, and I felt like the students walked away from it with just a sense of accomplishment. So everything that they do is testament to the program and the history of this, and then the parent organization that makes it all come together. So it's a lot of work behind the scenes, a lot of hours, but the dedication's there, and that's why we have that consistent result. So it's a really, really great year for us. I was like, I'm going to make him pop. I'm going to make him pop.
There you go.
I feel like we kind of got a fresh start for the program this year because, we had a new band director and there were a lot of new kids this year. So to see it all come together from the very beginning, from the very first day, it was just astounding the improvement that everybody made every day. And I was really happy with the last show that we put out, and I think we had a really great year. So.
Say anything?
So I'll invite, maybe we'll start with Mr. Kiley, if he wants to say anything on behalf of the administration, then I'll invite my fellow committee members to say a few words.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Jenkins. Yeah, we're just so pleased to be able to recognize the high school marching band and Mr. Flint and all the volunteers and staff, and obviously the amazing students who made it all possible, and another national championship. So it's incredibly impressive, and we're proud, very proud of you.
Mr. Oliver?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What can I say? I got a chance to watch on YouTube, one of the YouTube channels, or the Facebook channel, or the Facebook account, different parents that I'm friends with posting the videos over at MetLife Stadium. But seeing it, I wish I could have been there in person, because I'd love to, be there and experience what everyone else felt. But what an amazing job, everyone, the students, the staff should be really proud of the job that you folks have done, especially coming off of, a very difficult year that we've had. And it just goes to show perseverance and, coming together. I always enjoy hearing you play at the stadium. I can hear you from my house, which is about 1.5 miles away. And I can always hear when the band's out there. So congratulations to everyone.
Ms. Wade?
So this is our first year with it's my third child, but my first one in the band this year, and it's been such a great experience, and I have to say, so much of it is, testament not just to the hard work of the staff, but I mentioned this at our last meeting, but the leadership of the upperclassmen, the seniors, and I just, I look at, you two, I look at Josh, and again, I think the modeling is just, from the very first band camp that they have, and these kids work so hard, but the very first, camp, this, the seniors and the upperclassmen are saying, we're taking this seriously. If we're in the pit, we're there first. We, you get there, not at, if it says it starts at 6, you get there at 5:30. And that modeling and the life lessons that carries through, it's just an incredible, it's incredible to see. It's been an incredible journey this year. And I said to the parents, I said, we get there, we're down in New Britain. I said, how can this be better next year? I mean, how can they do this again next year? It was just, I thought this show, I don't have the comparison, but the show I thought was just outstanding. Just a gorgeous show, and the experience of being there with the parents and the community that, has been established, I think, again, through this history and the dedication to be part of that at MetLife. I mean, to be there it's something, and to see that feeling. I remember there was a gentleman at New Britain, whose mouth was dropped, and he had come 3 hours earlier. He had another child in a different band, or a grandchild, and he came specifically to see Dartmouth because we were early, and he just, again, the kids from other bands, they're just amazed because because you're amazing. This is an amazing program, so thank you for it.
I think one of the things that, and I don't know if the students realize it, and Josh, you can chime in if you do, if you can, is when our students are warming up in that, there are students from other band directors from other bands that are just, I kind of said to somebody, last week, the percussion is warming up, and all they're doing is thump, 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 thump. And there are people just in awe because of the way we're doing it, or playing the scales, or the flags just were. And the amount of people that, will come over and they're like, I want my students to watch you guys, because when you're on, we're not going to be able to be here, and that type of deal. And that's what our student musicians have been able to bring, type of deal. I don't know if Josh has anything, because he was there too.
Would you like to add something, Josh?
Sure. I just think the marching band is a testament to the community, not only in the band or Dartmouth High School, but in Dartmouth as a whole. And I think it's really great year after year that we can come out successful after all the dedication and hard work we've put into it for the community and the school. I think that we owe that all to our staff and all the parent volunteers that help out, everyone who has a part in it, because they're the ones year after year that come back and help out every year that make this program as successful as it is. So I just like to thank all of the parents, volunteers, and the staff that we have at Dartmouth High for helping us in putting together a great program every year.
Thanks, and I'll just add, I don't live by the stadium, but I live across the water from the band, so I hear the hard work every day in the summer, starting in the summer, every night. And sometimes at night I'll say, are they still practicing? Right? So I know how hard y'all work. I hear it all the time. And it's a real testament to show our kids how hard work pays off, as Ms. Waite was saying. And it's a real impressive achievement this year and across many years, and we're all very proud of you. So congratulations, and thank you very much. I'd like to. So, we get to move on to more fun and pleasant things to talk about this evening. The next item on our agenda is recognition of our own Mr. John Nunes for MASC, which is the Massachusetts Association of School Committees Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kiley first, who has a few words to say on behalf of the administration, and we'll go from there.
So this is my 11th year working with Mr. Nunes here in Dartmouth, and it's certainly a pleasure to have a school committee member who's so committed to the community and has done so much for Dartmouth, and is so involved in every bit of our success. So it's certainly an honor, and we're lucky to have him work with us as administrators here in Dartmouth, for sure. I'll turn it over to Mr. Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. So, I've, in speaking with Dr. Jenkins, the chair of the committee, and also this is going on my ninth year of being on the school committee and getting to know John and attending. I've had the opportunity on several occasions to attend the Mass Association of School Committee their fall conference along with the Mass Superintendents. It's a joint conference down the Cape. And that's when I first kind of started learning about many years ago about the Lifetime Achievement Award. And thinking about that, I said, you know what? I know of someone that, is very, very deserving of the Lifetime Achievement Award. So in conversations with Dr. Gifford, our superintendent of schools, as well as with Dr. Jenkins, our chairperson, I felt it was appropriate that the school committee take action to recognize Mr. Nunes for all of his accomplishments. So after some conversations back and forth and helping Dr. Jenkins as well as Dr. Gifford coming up with some of the all of the many things that Mr. Nunes does or has done for the past 31 years. We were very happy to nominate him for this award, and I can't think of anyone more deserving than John Nunes for his time that he's put on the committee. I have learned an awful lot from you, John. I know you don't like people talking about you, but I can see you already blushing. But I have learned an awful lot from your time, from my time being on here working with you. And while we always don't agree, which is perfectly okay, I always respect your position, and that's something to be said about you and the everything that you've done. So at this time, I'll turn it over to, we're very happy to welcome and have Mr. James Hardy from the Mass Association of School Committees. So, Jim?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I've been with MASC for almost 26 years now, so John's got me beat in a few years, but I've had opportunities to interact with him a few times over that 26 years, and my guess is that, and those of you who know him better can probably attest to the fact that he's going to try to, no big deal, no big deal. He's going to try to downplay it and take himself out of being the center of attention. But unfortunately, John, this is kind of a big deal. This isn't an award that's just given out because people want awards to put on their walls. So I thought it'd be important to kind of read the criteria for this award so you can just see how significant it really is. Guidelines for Lifetime Achievement Award. A lifetime achievement is a designation established to honor individuals who, through their service to their community and their local school committee, have exhibited the best characteristics of public service. Lifetime achievement shall be limited to a present or former school committee member who must have a minimum of 10 years of elective service in the community or non-elective service to a public education as a volunteer member of the public school faculty or benefactor of public schools, including not less than 2 terms on the school committee. I think you met all that part.
I think so.
This designation is not dependent on the nominee's participation in MASC programs or its activities. The nomination is dependent upon the nominee's commitment to community above and inclusive of school activities. Candidates for lifetime achievement may not nominate themselves, so that's important too. So I'm just going to read some of the things that were in the nomination letter that we received, and all nominations go to our board of directors. Our board of directors is made up of school committee members duly elected across the state. It is both an honor and pleasure to nominate Mr. John L. Nunes of the Dartmouth School Committee for consideration to the MASC Board of Directors for the Lifetime Achievement Award. John has been a member of the Dartmouth School Committee for 31 years. Wow. During his time in the committee, he has been chairperson many times and served on several subcommittees. Most recently, he was part of the negotiating team during the pandemic. This was a considerable time commitment last year as we met with the union numerous times. John, who is also a Dartmouth alumnus, is a considerable asset to the community because of his institutional knowledge of the Dartmouth school system and school committee. Members of the school committee continuously look to him for procedural guidance in past history. While Mr. Nunes is a team player, when he takes a position on a topic, he makes himself clear on his beliefs and rationale. He does his homework before each meeting and is always educated on agenda topics. Well, that in itself would not get you Lifetime Achievement Award. That would get you an all-state school committee award. It's this next part that kicked it into this category. In addition to his role in the committee, Mr. Nunes volunteers whenever the opportunity presents itself. He has a long-standing history of spending his off hours assisting our nationally recognized marching band and music program, the 5 consecutive time national championship, 10-time overall marching band. Every year, he spends countless hours at Gillette Stadium working a concession stand for the marching band, in addition to making himself available for practices, rehearsals, trips, and indoor percussion shows. He is also the announcer at home football games and has been the master of ceremonies at many events. He continues to be an active member in our high school theater program. In addition, he has served on the negotiation subcommittee, policy subcommittee, budget subcommittee, Dartmouth School Music Association, Dartmouth High School Theater Company, Dartmouth High Home Football Game Announcer, Distributive Education Clubs of America Judge. Extensive volunteer work that Mr. Nunes does for the Dartmouth schools. He is also actively engaged in a variety of other service work in Dartmouth and the surrounding communities, such as volunteering to support the Feast of the Blessed Sacrament in New Bedford. For all the reasons presented, I ask for your consideration to recognize Mr. John L. Nunes. Mr. Nunes, by unanimous vote of the Board of Directors, it is my honor to present to you this plaque designating you as a recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. I'd like to read it to you. Presented to John Nunes in recognition of your many years of service as a strong advocate for children and your unselfish contributions to the Dartmouth Public Schools. Presented by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees 2021.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Oh, boy. Thank you, Jim. It's good to see you again. It's been a while. And by the way, when we were doing those seminars and you talked about somebody clicking a pen, yeah, I still do, that type of deal. I stand here very humble, and my Irish is kicking in, and honored to receive it. I've kidded with people, there must have been no one else available, and that's how I got it. You know, if you go back and you look at the old Westerns or Amos and Andy and that type of deal, and they'd sit there and say, I need a volunteer. You know, anybody wants to volunteer, take one step forward and everybody steps back and you're left. I think that's what happened here. I'd like to thank all my family members that are here tonight for their support, especially my wonderful wife, who puts up with me going out to all the meetings I go to and everything else. I'd also like to thank all the different committee members that I've been fortunate enough to work with the past 31 years. I also, Chris and Shannon, Dr. Gifford, and everyone who worked on that one wonderful letter. I'm kind of blown away by it. Finally, I'd like to thank the voters of town of Dartmouth who have been kind enough over the years to keep me in this position. I'm not sure why, but I must be doing something right. And hopefully in April of 2022, you'll continue to that practice and give me your support again. Thank you very much, everyone. To my family, to my loving wife, thank you.
Well.
So I just wanted to say really briefly, you know, while we don't always agree, I always appreciate Mr. Nunes, and I know that you have my back. I would also, if we had a title of school committee historian, I would give you that title because I deeply appreciate the deep historical knowledge about this committee and the processes for how we operate. You've always been sort of a mentor to all of us, and I think we all very much appreciate this. This is a well-deserved award, so congratulations. Ms. Waite, would you like to say a word?
And again, I think it's clear, certainly to parents, the community, that you're always in this for the students, you know, and again, and I can speak to the mentoring just from the last two meetings when I needed him to sit next and talk about procedures. So I experienced that, but you're the heart and soul, I think, in so many ways of this town. You know, it's hard to go too many places where we don't hear your voice, and that's a great thing. And I know, we're about to lead into the student representative report, but I know that, Josh has something that he would like to give you on part of the students and the band as well. So if that's okay, can I?
Go ahead.
Okay,
Yes,
Josh.
please.
Yeah, so I know you guys have said some things about Mr. Nunes, but just from the marching band perspective, Mr. Nunes does a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that you wouldn't know or see if you just looked at it, at the band as a whole. He goes above and beyond to help our band, and we would not be successful without his help. So I have a little something on behalf of the band.
I think you should open it now, Mr. I think you should open it.
Oh, my God.
Now we're really embarrassing him.
Yeah, I know. You know.
All right, and I believe Mr. Kiley might have a little something for you, too.
I think that's my, maybe that's my show shirt next year.
Yeah.
John, we have a little something for you there, and we have a cake. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we're not going to all eat the cake, so you get to take it home with your family and share that with everyone.
Oh, that's nice.
Nice.
So I have to ask about the cake. Does the cake need to be refrigerated, or is the cake okay for
I think
the-
it can make it, I think.
Okay.
Depends how many,
I was wondering if
how
you
many
would need
comments
to.
there are. Yeah,
Because
that'd be
I
fine.
know your family supports you, but they don't have to support you by sitting through the rest of the school committee meeting. They can go home and have cake without you. Mr. Nunes, would you like a picture with your family very briefly with your plaque before we?
Nice, thank you.
Okay. I think we'd like to share that on social media too, so. Just wanna maybe line up right here? Sorry.
Oh. With your eyes.
John. Hand off the cake before they, there we go. Don't eat it all before he gets home.
Yes, I'm going back.
Back to work. All right, back to work. No rest for the weary. All right. So the next item on our agenda is our student representative report. I know Josh has already had a couple times opportunities to contribute, but we're looking forward to hearing more from you. Josh, go right ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Good evening, everyone. I am Joshua Moniz, and I'm a senior at Dartmouth High School. I would like to give you an update on what is going on at Dartmouth High. All of our fall teams have wrapped up their very successful fall seasons. Our girls volleyball team made it to the Elite Eight and lost a competitive matchup versus the #1 ranked Westboro High School team on Friday evening. Our cross-country team also wrapped up their successful season with several runners competing in the Division I cross-country championship meet on Saturday at the Rentham Developmental Center. This season, many of our runners set personal records as they improved throughout the season. We had two of our esports teams qualify for the playoffs after successful fall seasons led by Mr. Gia and Mr. Bosworth. Both teams qualified as being in the top 16 in the state out of more than 50 teams competing statewide. Playoffs started this afternoon, so we will find out how the teams made out tomorrow. Spirit Week kicked off today with Pick Your Cause Day. Participation was strong, with several different causes being displayed throughout the school, one of the most popular being breast cancer awareness. Other causes included mental health awareness, pancreatic cancer awareness, and many more. I particularly love this themed day, one that I've experienced for the first time this year during this year's Spirit Week at DHS, because I was able to support multiple sclerosis by wearing orange. Spirit Week continues tomorrow with College Day. The Key Club is leading a campus cleanup as a community service project this Thursday, November 18th from 2:15 to 3:30 p.m. All students are welcome to attend. Seniors can order their yearbooks as well as their caps and gowns and diplomas. Information was included in the DHS community update and was also shared during advisory last week. The Senior Superlative Homecoming Dance was postponed to its rain date, Saturday, November 20th from 7 to 10 p.m. Our robotics team is hosting their first scrimmage on November 21st from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Teams from other areas will compete at DHS to simulate a competition environment before their first competition later in the year. That concludes my update on DHS. Today is the final meeting that I will be serving as a student representative. I have greatly enjoyed giving these updates each time and meeting with all of you. I would like to thank all of you for your time and having me as the representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Josh?
Just, I've had the privilege of knowing Josh for a long time, with the band and that, and I just want to, seriously say thank you very much for being here. You've brought us a lot of information and much appreciated, and best of luck as you finish out your senior year and go on to bigger and better things.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Oliver?
Sure. It's been a pleasure, Josh, and I wish you the best of luck. You present yourself extremely well at these meetings, and you always share a lot of great information with us. So I wish you the best of luck in all your future endeavors, and it's been a pleasure to have you here at the meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
Thank you.
Yes, Josh, again, thank you so much. I can't wait to see, what the next few months are going to unfold for you. It's kind of an exciting journey. It's been, I'm sure your mom will share. So, but I think you're going to do just great. So, again, we're all really proud that you're a graduate of Dartmouth High. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White.
Yeah, best of luck, Josh. We've appreciated your updates, and we've appreciated having you here. So good luck. And with that, you are welcome to go if you would like, as always, or you're welcome to stay. It's up to you.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item on our agenda is public comment. We've allotted 10 minutes for anyone to speak about any of the items that are on our agenda for this evening. If you'd like to speak about an agenda item, I welcome you to step up to the microphone, share your name, and please keep your comments brief. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm sure you all know me. I'm Christian Gavush-Silvera. I was last year's class president, graduating class of 2021. I had won the chance to sit down with school committee to discuss the parking pass issue. I noticed it's on the agenda. I know we haven't scheduled any sort of meeting, so I just want to take this time to discuss that a little bit. I know you guys will be discussing the parking pass fees tonight, so I just want you to consider a few things when you do. Number one is the biggest reason that these fees are in place is because of one major specific expense, and that's the expense of plowing. That expense of plowing, quite honestly, I plow in the winter, and the most complicated parts in this parking lot to plow are the teacher's parking lot due to the planters and all the different weaves and turns, as well as the fire lane. And those two things are both required to get plowed and maintained. So even if the student parking lot was shut down, the vast majority of that maintenance would still need to occur, and that expense would still happen. Another reason for this fee is the maintenance of the lot. Again, the planters in this parking lot, they're all in the front. The vast majority of the curbs, they're all in the front. The majority of the maintenance that occurs are in those front entry lanes coming to the school, which have nothing to do with the student parking lanes at all. Another thing to do with the plowing is when we have really bad storms, the school has to call in outside companies to come and plow the parking lot so that they can free up the maintenance department to go and plow at other schools. So in essence, the students are paying for the plowing at other schools because they're freeing up the maintenance here to go to those places. Now, just because this fee is occurring at other schools, it doesn't necessarily mean it's okay, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's all that affordable. One other point that is brought up a lot is that the school provides transportation for students who don't necessarily want to pay this fee. Now, I just want to put this in perspective. If all probably 200 drivers or students that come to this parking lot every day decided to no longer drive and take the buses, the school department would have to, or the financial department would have to renegotiate contracts with Tremblay's, and therefore would probably have to pay for more buses because of the mass amount of students that would then be taking the transportation. So they would no longer be saving money in that aspect. There are many different categories and reasons for why this fee shouldn't be in place, but I think it's just pretty simple and straightforward. This is a town building. This is a town parking lot. Just as any other town parking lot, this should be maintained just like all of the others. And that small square back there that students park in and have to pay $60 a year, I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's not fair. I drive around town after snowstorms and I see parking lots that have been plowed for libraries and old police stations that don't even get used anymore. Why are those things being plowed for free when we have a building full of students having to pay for the plows to come and do this lot here? That maintenance should be covered by the tax dollars, and the vast majority of that maintenance would have to occur no matter if that lot were shut down or not. So please think about all these things tonight when you guys deliberate about the parking passes. I wish I could stay and listen to it all. I do have to run. I didn't realize it was a meeting tonight, but thank you all for listening. And thank you, Mr. Nunes, for all of your years of service on the school committee.
Thank you. We appreciate your continued involvement in this issue. I definitely, as a political scientist, I appreciate it very much. Any other people wishing to speak on any of the items on our agenda for this evening? All right, hearing none, I will move on to the next item of the agenda, which is approval of the minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the regular session minutes from November 1st, 2021.
So moved.
Second?
All right, so a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Mr. Oliver. Is there any discussion on the issues? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I will abstain, so that's 3 votes for, 1 vote against, since I was not here that evening. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the executive session minutes from November 1st.
So moved, Madam Chair, with the stipulation that they be held until the matter for what they were intended is complete.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Ms. Waite. Any discussion on the issue? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I will abstain again. So that's 3 in favor, 1 abstention. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda. That's the consent agenda. That's for fundraising activities for the Quinn PTO. I will entertain a motion to approve the Quinn PTO fundraising activities.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Ms. Waite. Is there any discussion on that item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Good luck.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries unanimously. All right, next we're going to move on to old business. Dr. Gifford was unavailable this evening, so we are going to skip the first item under old business, the superintendent evaluation review, and wait for the next meeting when she will be available. So we'll move on to the proposed meeting dates from January through June. I assume that we didn't approve these because I was not here. My apologies. These dates are all fine with me. I assume they're fine with everyone else.
Yes.
Mr. Nunes, do you have a
Yeah.
comment?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'll make the same comment I made.
Sorry, I'm making everyone repeat
No,
themselves.
and that's fine. No, I'm fine, believe me. I'll make the same comment that I made at the last meeting, and again, understanding the fact that February is the short month, you throw the school vacation in there type of deal. We're scheduled to meet February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, okay? And all I'll say is that a lot of years ago, when I was sitting in your chair, and I happened to make a comment about Valentine's Day, I almost got my head handed to me, because that was a proposed meeting date type of deal. So, again, if I'm good with that date, I don't know how the young ladies are.
I am good with that date as well.
That's fine.
I am not an old romantic, let's just say that.
And that's fine, and I just wanted to make sure.
I would be fine if anyone wants to move that, though. We can do that if need be.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
that's fine.
okay. So we don't need a motion to approve these. Correct? We don't need a motion. We're good on this, right? I didn't think so. All right, so the next item on our agenda is a discussion of staffing. Mr. Kiley, you want to kick us off here?
Sure, thank you, Dr. Jenkins. So we just really wanted to follow up on our discussion from the last school committee meeting. We felt that it was important, we talked last time about increasing substitute teacher pay. We did so. We did it effective essentially immediately following the last school committee meeting. And, our hope is that that drives some, some desire for folks to step in and help us. We increased it from $120 to $130 for a certified substitute teacher rate, which, as we talked about last time, really puts us into a fairly competitive position towards the high end of local rates, which we need because we're certainly short, as every other community is, unfortunately, right now. So we addressed that. We also Dr. Gifford had mentioned at the last meeting regarding the use of school choice funds. So Where we are with that right now is that we would recommend that you authorize us to hire a teaching assistant using school choice funds at the moment. We're going through the ESSER approval process for ESSER 3. ESSER 2's approved, ESSER 1, there's a lot of juggling right now. So if grant funding were available to fund this, we would use those funds first. But if not, then this teaching assistant position will assist us in addressing some of our staffing needs. The cost would be about $20,000 to $27,000, depending on where they land on the salary schedule, teacher assistant salary schedule. So we would seek your support in helping us try and address some of our most pressing needs by authorizing that.
Questions? Mr. Nunes, you want to start?
Yeah, sure, thank you. Mr. Kiley, the balance right now, that there's no money in there for this current fiscal school year. Is that money coming? That normally comes in December and May or April, if my memory was any good?
In school choice?
School choice?
So school choice comes in gradually, quarterly payments throughout the year.
Oh, it comes in quarterly payments now, okay.
So we have $1,119,000
That's right
in
now.
school choice funding. We did, because of, actually, one of the few good things about COVID was that, we haven't really spent a lot of school choice money in the last couple of years. We haven't had the activities, unfortunately, that we normally like to support out of there, stipends for after-school programs and things like that. So we've accumulated some money, which is a good thing. Again, we'd want to continue to maintain a healthy balance there because I think we are going to have some challenges ahead of us as we face the decline in the ESSER funding, the COVID relief funding over the next few years. I think that's going to be a challenge, and we're going to have to plan very carefully. And I would hope that school choice will be a way to, help us buffer some of that impact.
Does one teaching assistant right now take care of it, or are you just seeing what one does and go from there?
It doesn't take care of all of our problems. It does address one glaring need for us at the Quinn School, and so it is a step in the right direction. We are hopeful that we are able to find some more substitute teachers, and that would also assist us with our problem. But at this point, we weren't prepared to hire additional staff in every building full-time. So this is a step that hopefully will help. And as we get through the next few weeks, maybe we hope to have some more subs on the list for us.
Okay. I'm good right now, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thanks. I'm of two different minds. I understand the need for this, but I'm always leery to put recurring expenses on non-recurring revenue sources. And there's some question, like, how many years, right, that we've had this now, that at what point do you stop treating it like a non-recurring revenue source? But it only takes, one or two changes in an election for that revenue source to go away, right? So I'm somewhat concerned about that. At this point, given where we are, I think, I'm willing to maybe to try that. I recognize, though, that, we've done some hiring on ESSER too, and this community is going to have a problem, right? Yes, we have $1 million in the school choice, but once you start burning that down on recurring expenses, then you're in a really bad position. And that's what got us into a lot of our fiscal woes way back when. I'll be the town policy historian, which ties into, in fact, the next item of our agenda. That's where that originates from. So I guess I would say, I am inclined to support this because I know we're in a bad position right now. but it makes me really nervous that we're putting ourselves in a bad position, and it makes me somewhat frustrated. I know the town does its best to support the schools, but at the same point in time, our tax base is not sufficient to support the needs that we have in this community around education. So I'm willing to support this, albeit very reluctantly, because I know you wouldn't come to us unless the need was real. Mr. Oliver?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I certainly agree with you about using, school choice for reoccurring expenses or reoccurring positions from year to year. I will say, to your point, as far as, it'd only take one election to maybe not do away with school choice or whatnot. But at least, there is some buffer there that the students, we can't just let go of the students that we currently have here. So at least there'll be some time, while they matriculate through the system. I do agree with you, though. I'm certainly concerned, but I'm also concerned from the operational side that we have some serious issues and concern. I certainly have some concerns with the way our daily operations and not in many, many positions going unfilled. So anything that I think that we can do to help with this, I think would certainly go a long ways. I think it's a smart approach that Mr. Kiley is recommending right now with just the one position with school choice, because it is, when you look at the range there, it's certainly, I think it's manageable and reasonable. But yeah, I'd like to see, where we are at another 3 months from now to see, when we're in the midst of winter time and how we're doing with, unfilled positions because people are calling out or, COVID quarantines or whatnot. So yeah, no, I'm in favor of this, but I do agree that we just need to watch what we're doing when it comes to using school choice. Thank you.
Other comments? Ms. Wade?
Yeah, I'll just, echo, certainly I think this is a need, right? And, so I'm certainly inclined to support it. And, from an operational standpoint, as Mr. Oliver was referencing, I happen to be on, multiple school websites today, just looking more at their parking pass, but also at their employment, whether it's Mansfield, Plymouth, everyone is looking for subs right now. Everyone is advertising, Mansfield wants, their high school full-time sub. I mean, every single district is advertising and desperate for subs. So I think we're going to be, it's going to be a challenging year to find those, hopefully, like you said, that extra salary boost will invite some, but it's going to be a tough. So I think we're going to have to come up with some sort of stopgap, just, to serve those kids at Quinn. So that's my thought.
Mr. News, you want to add something?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we're in a no-win situation here, and, and I agree with your comments about, the school choice money being, one, quote-unquote, non-reoccurring, and, a committee change, throws everything out the window, and in 4 years, it's gone, type of deal and such. But the big thing here is first and foremost is we're attempting to take care of the students, okay? And that's what we have to do is take care of these students. And number two, I mean, doing this at this time of the year, I mean, we're 3 months into the school year, you're gonna have, it'll be December when somebody, so this is not gonna be the full boat this year, and we have to, and just go forward from there and see what will happen. For what it's worth, and again, this is just me, I mean, if somewhere down the line, you've got to come back, Mr. Kiley, and say, listen, we need another TA in another school, for half a year, a quarter, and we need to use school choice again, I'm all for it. I mean, we have the money, and yeah, maybe it's a short-term gap, but we have to take care of these students, and I think this is the way to do it.
All right, do we need a motion here?
Yeah, because we've kind of got a policy, quote-unquote, unwritten policy about anything over $10,000. The administration has to come to us, if my memory's any good.
For school choice, yeah.
For school choice, so just to make it transparent.
Sure. So would
Or-
you like to make a
Sure,
motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, that we authorize the administration to use up to $26,000 of school choice money for the hiring of one teaching assistant for school year 21-22.
Second that.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Nunes and a second by Ms. Waite. Any further discussion?
Does that work, Mr. Kiley?
That will be fine. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries unanimously. So next, we'll start our discussion of the DHS student parking fee. You know, I don't disagree with, right, anything that's been said, a public comment about our parking fee, you know, but, right, we have some, we're relying on that. What'd you say, average about $11,800. Addition, in your memo that you gave to us, Mr. Kiley, you talked about transcript fees, which average about $2,500, so that's just a little less than that half of a teaching assistant for a half year there that we're talking about. So maybe you can fill us in a little bit on that, and we can have a discussion about that.
Sure. And, you know, Christian had good points. I mean, it is true that we have to maintain the parking lot regardless of whether students come to school or not. We have about 200 students a year who pay a parking fee of $60 for the year. We had decreased that from 100 back in 2014 when I took a look at it, and I thought that it was possible to still do what we needed to do. With that, snow plowing is a big, generally the largest part of the expense, but we also do some paving work, some repairs of curbs, some line painting, tree trimming, lighting repairs from those funds. We've been lowering the balance basically since it was $100. We've been using a little more than we bring in every year for the last 7 years. So we bring in about $12,000 a year. We spend about $15,000 out of there. We have $26,000 left in the account. It is possible that we could eliminate the fee or reduce the fee. If we were to do that, we just need to think about in the budget a way to buffer that. So we'd have the $26,000, but obviously that would only last us so long. So we would need to plan some, at least gradual increase in the operating budget to make sure that we can accomplish what we need to, particularly the hiring of, these are large parking lots. Our equipment is not designed for heavy-duty snow plowing. We can manage most of the lots with our existing equipment, but this lot, when we get a lot of snow, we can't do it ourselves. So we need to be prepared for that, obviously, or else we risk not being able to have school. So it's certainly something we could plan for.
Comments or questions from the committee? Mr. Oliver?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess from my point of view and listening to the gentleman speak as well, and, you know, I think this actually came up briefly for conversation in one of our springtime meetings, I think it was. I personally just have a philosophical issue with charging students to park their cars in the parking lot. To me, while it's a decent amount of money, to me, something like that, it just doesn't make sense to me, that we're charging our students to park there. I'm not gonna belabor the issue. For me, it's just philosophical. I don't think it's necessary that we have an established parking fee for students to park their cars in a high school lot. For what it's worth, that's what I have.
Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I guess you and I disagree, Chris.
It's okay.
Driving your car to school is a privilege, okay? we pay probably close to $4 million for bus transportation, okay? And, you know, buses that roll to most of our schools, all, probably, you know, 4 out of 5, or maybe all of them, depending, probably half full on a good day type of deal, because either parents dropping off and or picking up their students, or in the case of the high school here, students driving to school. So that transportation budget is there. And if we're, you know, it's the privilege of driving to school and, you know, being able to park your car, and when school gets out at 2:10, you know, hop in your car and head for home or head for work or wherever you have to go, and not be dependent on transportation by a school bus, and getting home, you know, on time, or being able to get to work at 2:30 or anything of that nature. So I personally, excuse me, have no objections to this fee. I mean, yeah, and again, you know, back in 2014, I remember the discussion when the student rep, I think it was John Schaafs, you know, brought it up and talked about it type of deal. And as the gentleman did now, presented a good case for it, and we reduced it from 100 to 60. So we were able to do that. So I think $60, again, it's a privilege. You want to drive, it's an expense. It's no different than having, you know, per se, car insurance, or putting gas in your car, or that type of deal. Again, my opinion.
It's wait. Yeah, I've been struggling with this since it came up last year, because again, you know, from a fiscal point, we always need money. You know, I mean, not to, you know, at the same token, you know, should we be asking, again, this is, you know, kind of from a philosophical point, as Mr. Oliver was referencing, should we be asking students to absorb the cost not just of maintaining their own lot, which it seems that it's clear that they're paying for maintenance of the main lot as well. And that's, you know, so I'm torn. You know, I really don't have a clear path on this. I will say in my, you know, research, you know, you have everything from, you know, Mansfield is charging $100, you know, for parking. You have, I mean, again, New Bedford is $50, you know, then I think Voc is free. So again, we are kind of in the middle of every place, yes?
Voc is 5.
What was it, 5? 5.
My grandson pays 5.
See, there you go. Okay, I didn't, when I was looking through, but, but still, very minimal.
Yeah. No?
So, but again, like, you know, so we are in the middle. I think it's important to note that students who, you know, in our policy, we do have allowances for students who are on free and reduced lunch, that they are absolved from that, you know, and I think that's important. I do recognize that in cases, we have our students who are paying that fee themselves, rather than their parents, you know, so again, just to acknowledge that. But so again, I don't have a good, I'm waiting to be convinced from one side, but because I feel torn. I certainly admire the passion and dedication, to Dr. Jenkins' point, that, you know, he certainly has been following up and is dedicated to this, and you know, I admire that, and I certainly understand his arguments, and I just, we have fees for so many other things, you know, whether it's transcript fees, we have athletic fees. You know, I don't know, do all of our athletic, and it's, I guess, a question for Mr. Kiley. When you pay an athletic fee, is that just solely going for your costs, or does it go into the broader program? I mean, so these are all kind of things I don't know.
So an athletic fee all of the athletic fees support the staff salaries for the stipends for coaches in the athletic program. It doesn't go directly necessarily to the coach that you, in the sport you are, but it is in the pool and supports coaches' stipends in addition to what we fund in the operating budget. But.
And it seems like to me, and again, I would rather, it'd be great if they didn't have any fees across the board, but we do have fees in these other areas. We do have options for the students who, you know, so again, I'm not coming up with a coherent answer, but I'm torn.
So I'll say, you know, having two kids who I have to try to wake up on a regular basis, right? We literally have a sonic alarm clock for one of them that vibrates the bed, sounds like. I am sympathetic to many of the kids' needs in this community to get additional sleep. A teenager's biorhythm is not designed to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, let alone 6:15, 6:20 when some of the bus routes are starting in the north part of town. You know, I get, particularly coming from the northern part of this community, some of those bus routes, those kids are on the bus for an hour a day, right? And then, so you're an hour in the morning, you're an hour in the afternoon, when it's really maybe a 15, 20-minute ride. Yeah, we have buses, but for a lot of kids, right, that extra half hour or 45 minutes of sleep every day really means a lot. So I'm very sympathetic to, right, and believe me, when one year I called Mr. Kiley in a panic and I said, oh my God, you've changed the bus routes, now I gotta get my kids up at 6:45, which he didn't change the bus routes for me, just to be clear. That extra sleep can matter, and so we drove them to school that year because that extra half hour of sleep was big for them. As soon as they got their license, we paid the $60 so they could drive. I think it's not just for fun, right? There are reasons in the morning why kids are driving, and then in the afternoon, a lot of these kids are going to work. My son goes to work right after school. If he lived in the north part of Dartmouth, he wouldn't be able to take the bus because he wouldn't be home in time to be able to get to work. And I think we're in a lucky position where for, you know, our son, that's, you know, sort of fun money. But for a lot of kids, that's not just fun money, right? I mean, it is sort of fundamental to them. So I'm very sympathetic. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards Mr. Oliver's position on this. At the same point in time, I am aware of, right, the $15,000 is going to have to come from somewhere, which will likely mean next year one less request for something. I don't know if you all, we don't have to make this decision this evening, right, because this would be for the next fiscal year. We can make a decision this evening, or we can wait. Mr. Nunes, do you have a suggestion on that, or just a comment?
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head, Madam Chair. You know, I mean, I don't think we need to make a decision on this tonight, type of deal. I knew there was something else I wanted, and I just wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. But they're going to be putting the budget for fiscal '23 together. We don't know where that is going to be.
Right.
Okay. And again, I mean, so somebody's going to sit there and say, well, you know, it's $15,000 for the parking lot, and it's $2,500. All right, so that's $17,000. Yeah, maybe it's a TA type of deal. So you have that issue, but not knowing what we're going to be getting from town, what the town is going to be able to give to us, what the state's going to be able to give us, things of that nature. Because you talk about not wanting to use, you know, the COVID monies for, you know, certain things, and I think this is one of those that you don't want to get into using, because, again, it's going to become a stopgap that in 3 years, you know, the 17,000, 18,000 type of deal that these two numbers combined right now are, in 3 years could be $22,000, $25,000 with inflation and additional costs. So I would suggest that we kind of, and I don't mean it in that sense, but we just kind of put this on the back burner right now until they get into the budget and we see where things are, type of deal. My second comment, my second question is, do students also have the ability to park in the front part of the parking lot now? There used to be a sign, and the students, for the most part, were down, you know, where the lights are and down the side parking lot, but now they changed all of that, so.
Accurate, yeah.
You know, the whole lot, for argumentative sake, would need to be plowed for the students to park also.
Absolutely.
Yeah, never mind just the faculty. Thank you.
Mr. Oliver.
So I certainly agree with Mr. Nunes. We can, you know, delay action on this this evening. I don't think we need to, in my opinion, take a vote tonight. With that, though, I definitely would like to make sure that during the budget process, that this is certainly brought up again and addressed, because I think it's important that we don't just let this go by the wayside.
I might follow up and ask, I know Mr. Nunes and Mr. Oliver are fairly clear. Ms. Waite and I are in the middle, and I'm wondering if it's to help Mr. Kiley a little bit in the preparation of the budget, that the sense of the committee, it seems to me, this would be you and I'd like to at least potentially see some reduction in this fee.
Yes.
That's not to say we're having a vote, but as you start to prepare the budget, right, a little bit of direction from us, I think, might be, and so if you come, that way he can come to us and say, I can't do it, or I was able to reduce it to this, or I was able to eliminate it. So if we give him a little bit of direction now, that might help you, knowing that it's not a binding decision at that point. Would that be helpful to you?
That would be helpful, absolutely.
Okay, so my preference would be to reduce. I'm not sure I would support eliminating. I'm just trying to get a sense of the committee here. Ms. Waite?
I think I'm on the same page as you are.
We know Mr. Nunes is fine where it is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and Mr. Oliver would like,
I would certainly be amenable to even, some kind of relief.
okay. So it's not an official vote, but that gives you a sense of the committee and where we might like you to head, and then we can continue having this discussion with a maybe more official vote during the budget process once we see where we are. Does that make sense?
Yes, I appreciate that, and we'll certainly incorporate that into our planning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item on our agenda is the new business is the fiscal year 23 budget timeline. Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. So you have before you a draft timeline. It's based on these school committee meeting dates that you felt comfortable with tonight. I can't believe that this is where we are, that we're planning 2023 already, but we are. It, as always is, it's an aggressive timetable for sure. We do have some flexibility, not a lot, but a couple of weeks of flexibility potentially, that if, I would imagine that it will be a somewhat challenging budget cycle. We'll be in the midst of negotiations throughout this, I would assume, and so there'll be a lot of unknowns, and we need to, try and give ourselves some flexibility to address those. But this is about what we have to accomplish. So we won't have all the information we need, I'm sure, to come up with the perfect budget, but we'll do the best we can.
Comments or questions about the budget timeline? Mr. Nunes, I was waiting for your comment about, which we know, right, that we are not going to have anything from the legislature.
No, I mean, we're just gonna have House 1 and maybe House Ways and Means, but,
Yes.
unless in their infinite wisdom, they come to an agreement and, put Chapter 70 money and, general aid, and, put those numbers in concrete, and then let everything else fall out later on. But that's always the wild card.
Yep.
But I mean, other than that, as I look at I just had it, but, I look at the schedule, I mean, we could always, depending what happened, we could always move the final budget approval to the end of April if we had to. We'd still have plenty of time to get it over to the town for inclusion in the warrant.
Yeah. Any other questions or concerns? All right, so next on the agenda is the superintendent's update. Mr. Kiley, you were going to give us one or two things as part of that, please?
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. So we just wanted to update you on where we are with the high school basketball court naming committee. So Dr. Gifford brought that up at the last school committee meeting. Today was the last day for folks to submit responses. I think as of this morning, I'm not sure if any more came in today, but we had 13 community members who had submitted a request to participate, so we'll be reviewing those and getting back to everyone and figuring out what the makeup of the committee is from there. I would imagine we'll begin to review those this week and move forward with that process. So we appreciate everybody's involvement.
Excellent.
Great.
Great to hear we have so many volunteers. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well deserved, too.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the report of the chair, which includes a discussion regarding student representation on the school committee. So on social media and Twitter, MASC, Tracy Novick tweeted that under Mass General Law, there's in fact a requirement that each high school elect a student advisory committee, and that student advisory committee be invited to the school committee once a month to provide a report to the school committee. I want to bring this up because while I appreciate, what Josh is doing and what was here and what he was giving, I would like to see more authentic student voices giving their reports as opposed to a recitation of sort of all the good things that's going on. I'd like to do that, but I also want to hear what they're saying. And I think the parking fee is a good example of what can happen when we have authentic student voices articulating their concerns to us. This came about, I think you had asked if we could invite the senior class president, and it wasn't about parking fees, but while he was here, he had the opportunity to raise that. I think we can comply with the intention of the law by saying the high school needs to elect this committee, we will invite all of them, but if only one of them decides to come, that's okay, right? But what I really do want to hear is what are the issues that are on their mind in a somewhat less filtered manner. I feel like there's a little bit of a barrier here, and I want to get more student input into our process because I think it will help inform some of the decisions we make. This is also a requirement under Mass General Law. This is not sort of a thing that I want. It is something that the law tells us we must do. So I'd like to sort of direct the high school to have elections for the committee as required by law, and then we can invite the members of the committee to come. I think it's a monthly basis requirement to share their thoughts. I would like to hear what you all have to think about that. Go ahead, Chris.
Guess I can start. Thank you. I certainly agree. I have a couple of points, I guess. The first being clearly, would it be in the same? Are you thinking the same format as far as because I see this if we move in this direction and they're able to share their thoughts and opinions on some of the agenda items, that they would more than likely have to stay through the meeting instead of allowing them to adjourn early. So I would just kind of, I'm perfectly fine with that, but I just want to make sure that they're aware that it's a commitment. But I certainly agree. I too would like to hear a little more from the student reps as far as I guess to put it one way, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just from their point of view, because I think a lot of them have a lot of good points and interesting points that they want to share with the committee and with the administration. So yeah, I would certainly be on board with changing the process a little bit for our student rep. I think it's important that we have some as much transparency as possible with the student body.
Mr. Nunes or Ms. Wade?
Well,
Mr. Nunes.
You just pulling out this, I just went back and was looking for the schedule, and, that we just, kind of said, yeah, okay, this is what we're going to have for fall
Thank you.
schedules and such, and now we have, we've got a couple of months just because of, Monday.
Can I interrupt? I'm really sorry. I misspoke. It's every other month they have to be invited.
Okay. No.
Because that may change, right? That I misspoke on that one. I want to make sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. But depending how, but again, back to how we do this or how it works type of deal, you have a couple of months that we only have one meeting because of, vacations and Monday holidays and things of that nature. I'll go back and state what I've said before, and that is, we have a student rep at our school committee meeting. He or she is our eyes and ears in the school. And if the students have a question or a concern, they should bring it to the student rep for the student rep to bring it to our attention. I understand some of this is a little scripted and such, but it also becomes their responsibility to make sure they go off script and they make those comments to us and they say, I've been approached by students about X, that type of deal, and why aren't we doing it? Or when are we going to do it, and that type of deal, so that we're aware of things, type of deal. So, and again, I agree with Mr. Oliver. I mean, depending where we're going to put them on the agenda, are they going to be here, are they going to be here for the whole meeting? I mean, it's not bad tonight, and I don't mean that. It's, we've been here about an hour and a half, so that's not too bad. But when we get into budget hearings and other things of that nature, depending where they are on the agenda and other things that are going on, if they want to comment on something that we've got on the agenda that they're talking about, they could be here till 9:30. I mean, we're not here that late sometimes, but sometimes we could be. So, and again, they've got to get home and get homework done and get to bed so that they can get up in the morning and get to school on time. So those are the things that I think we have to be very cognizant of.
Yeah, I just want to say, as the political scientist, though, right, for me, getting youth engaged in the civic process is as vitally important as any other school activity that they might engage in. And we don't balk at students. I was a soccer player, practicing for a couple of hours every day, right? Why would we balk at having a student show up to be part of our democratic process for 2 to 3 hours a night? It's probably one of the most important lessons they will get. So I want to note, again, this is not optional. So the Mass General Law, Mr. Kiley thankfully handed me the language. So it says that they shall meet at least every other month with the Student Advisory Committee, 5 members, elected by the student body of the high school, right? So first, they're supposed to be elected by their peers. That's not happening, and that really can produce different representation than when someone's picked. Second, the chairperson of the Student Advisory Committee has the right to attend executive sessions, or without the right to attend it. But they're subject to all the committee rules unless we can give them the right to even come in and be a part of that. So they can't attend executive sessions, but we can give them the right to do that. So these are intended to be full members of the committee without voting rights. And I think that's an educational opportunity, which is why I'm sort of pushing it for our students to be involved in this process. Mary, go ahead.
Can I just, I think that where we are is we need some procedural discussions and to come up whether or not it's a policy subcommittee, if we're going to frame this, because I think, to the credit of the students who are coming in, there isn't a lot of training that they're experiencing and a lot of conversations that they're having. I mean, again, Sophie my daughter just filled in, briefly, but she kind of was told, do a summary of everything that's going on, and, and they do a fabulous job. And again, if you put them on the, spot, they do answer those questions, but that hasn't been, again, part of the conversation and part of their training. So I think that if that's what we're going to ask of them, they need to be positioned for that and to have those discussions. And I think we need to articulate too, if these students, and again, this gets back to Mr. Nunes' point, are we going to have them sit through a budget that they're not going to be able to, that maybe they are reflective on or not? I think we have to kind of, what we are struggling through as a group and what we have to come up with are, what exactly are our expectations? Are we going to, in those every other month, come up, that we have them on the agenda on something that's pertinent to them and part of their, that they can really speak to? I mean, there might be certain times that when, okay, they're here, but again, if we're talking about every other month, that should be kind of where they're part of a valuable discussion that's relevant to them. So I think a lot of it has to be fleshed out so that, because I think we probably want, I mean, again, it certainly is a valuable thing for, it's an extremely valuable experience for them to be part of this process. I agree with Dr. Jenkins, and I think all of us do, but we just need to kind of come to some, kind of wrap our minds around and come up with a plan for how they're going to be trained at school, how they're going to be brought in, the discussions that will happen, that then they can bring in valuable information to us, is kind of where I'm coming from.
I'll just note that this is not optional.
No, I understand
It's Mass
that.
General Law, right? So we can have a discussion about training and whatnot, but it's the law in this state that there is an elected student advisory committee who has the right to be ex officio on our school committee.
Oh, excuse me, I definitely understand that. I'm just saying that I think, though, we need to come up with, so we can kind of understand, because it's going to be a change for us, so.
Mr. Nunes?
I mean, a couple of things. Number one, I go back to a question that Mr. Oliver raised at the last meeting about, and Jim was here tonight, I could have asked him, I didn't think of it, but, Glenn Kuchar or Jim at MASC about what their position is on it, type of deal. I mean, yeah, it's the law, so let's not even go there. I know it's the law, okay, so I'm fine with that. But the other concern I have, basically two, is number one, and again, 31 years on this committee, we've had student reps and committees and things of students that have come to these meetings, and at the time, they would be here for most of the whole meeting, and they would sit on their hands and do nothing, okay? So you have that. But you also want to make sure that they totally understand the process. And they, and no disrespect to these students, they're great students, but there are certain things that they can and cannot do or say and things of that nature. So they've got to understand the parliamentary procedures and the way things work. So I think there's got to be some training for them, and I agree with Mary on that point. So, and how that takes place, I don't know. So.
Go ahead, Mr. Oliver.
So what I'm hearing is that, at the end of the day, obviously, this is the way it should be done. This is the way it needs to be done. So, I guess from my point of view is that let's, through Mr. Kiley this evening, let's make sure that the ball gets rolling as far as we need to come up with everyone. I think everyone's in agreement that the students need to understand the commitment, what's expected of them, and, and make sure that there's training that takes place. But at the end of the day, I want to see it happen.
Yep.
Great.
I'm good with that.
Me too.
All right, so that is all that I have for my report as chair. We also have other matters that may not have been anticipated at the time of the agenda posting. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add?
Go.
Ms. Waite?
This is more of a question, kind of, more about, because we're seeing this come up on social media with the moving of homecoming. Can you just give us, the public, an update about, I think there's some questions why we didn't do a tent, and so if you would mind just giving a public update on homecoming and what parents can anticipate for next weekend.
I have not been intimately involved in that process, so I am probably not the best person to answer those questions. I'm sorry about that. Obviously, it's Saturday.
Yep.
And I'm not sure. I was not asked about a tent.
I just saw, like, when I walked out, it looks like, it has there's a patio area, and I don't think a tent would be functional in that area. I know there was a lot of, pushback from the community, but just walking it, I don't think you could actually physically put a tent there. So and it has a nice overhang, again, just taking pictures of it, I just saw a lot of pushback and questions around that. And I think that there is, the high school generally, if I go back to, the graduation and the graduation parade, I think they come up with some really nice plans for the kids. So with the heaters and everything else, I just kind of wanted to, I know that, probably Dr. Gifford would be able to add more to that, but I just wanted to soothe concerns that I think they'll have a great time.
Mr. Nunes?
Mrs. Waite, stay off social media. Okay? I've said that to you before.
I know.
Stay off social
Well, I'm
media.
not commenting.
Stay off social media because it's 90% whatever. Anyhow, Dr. Gifford, and again, have you had any luck with, Dr. Gifford, I apologize. Dr. Jenkins, have you had any luck with the vote minutes?
I have not, but I think that, I will be honest, this has been a rough sort of semester for me. That has been more on me than on them. Ms. Genther, can you send an email over to Voc to see if we can get those minutes? And maybe not, we'll have to look at the agenda. Maybe we can invite our reps at our next meeting?
Yeah, well,
I think that would be a great
that
idea.
would be good, either that one or the one right after the first of the year.
Yeah, so why don't we give them those two options? Would that
great.
work?
Yeah, that's fine.
The 13th or the 10th, the 13th of December or the 10th of January,
10th of
whichever one
January,
works
yeah,
for them.
that'd be fine.
Okay,
I think that'd be nice.
okay,
That'd be
great,
good.
thank you. Other items, Mr. Nunes?
The High School Theater Company is doing their holiday performance December 2nd, 3rd, and 2 performances on the 4th. I'm not sure what they're doing, but I know as you drive around town, you'll see their billboards up type of deal, so wish them good luck. I know where my nights are going to be spent, in the afternoons. Also, too, we've got the big football game Thanksgiving Day with, hopefully we'll have decent weather against our Fairhaven High School. That should be a great game. Fairhaven's got a good record this year. Our record is good, so come out and
Great to have
support
it back, isn't it?
Oh, it's great to have it. Oh, my God. It's just been beautiful to have, to be at a football game and have all, the students and the parents there and everything else type of deal. And again, on a very serious note and a very humbling note, my deepest thanks to everyone for the award and the gifts. I am truly humbled and very much blown away. Something never in a million years would I have thought of, type of deal. Never thought about it. As I always say, it's the kids that are important, and that's what it's all about. And, I'm the type of person that sometimes somebody will say, thank you, job well done, or something, and I'm good with that. But to have this is a very humbling experience and a real highlight, and I greatly appreciate it and thank everyone for it.
We appreciate your service very much. Thank you, Mr. Nunes.
Thanks, Julie.
Anything else to add? All right, so our next meeting is scheduled for December 13th.
Yes.
Here at Dartmouth High School. It's my understanding that we do not need an executive session this evening. I know Walter in the is throwing us all off there.
I know, really.
He didn't get the memo.
He was actually kind enough to come
But given
to
that
me.
we do not need an executive session this evening, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Oliver. I'll take that as a second for Mr. Nunes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. It's 7:58.
Thank you.
Surprise?
We did, that was a nice surprise.
You were right on time.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Oliver. I'll take that as a second for Mr.